Well, hello everyone. Yeah, we are excited about today. So welcome a Kasson to my Georgia listeners and Odaro to my Nigerian listeners because it is about 10 p.m. Over across the Atlantic. So this is our first show in 2025, and it's called School Talk Showdown. Yes, we're gonna have a showdown. I don't know if y'all heard my little music I had on when I was advertising this show. Said we ready? Yeah, we ready. We ready for this one. So it's a new season, and hold on tight for another exciting and memorable episode on Issues and Answers with yours truly, Chief Mrs. Honorable Valencia Stovall, and I have on my attire. It is Black History Month, so Black welcome and celebrating Happy Black History Month to those that are out there. And we're always celebrating greatness 365 days in a year when it comes to Black history. And we can always uplift our ancestors individually when we're doing this all 365. So, in October, I visited Nigeria for the first time and came back, of course, not just came back, brought some stuff back. This is one of the I won't say outfit, but one of the wares that I brought back with me, and it's called Adore, and it has the dye on it. And I also have on my chieftaincy. I was appointed as a chief when I went over as well because of the work I have been doing for years with the Yoruba community. And so I have on my jewelry here with me. So that's why for those of you able to see the whole thing, you might not be able to see it, but that's what I have on. And, I also got married when I went over to Nigeria, and I was trying to figure out how to put on my head wrap, and I couldn't figure it out. So I had to call my husband, and he had to tell me by video, okay, do it like this, do it like that. So I think I did a pretty good job. But you're listening for the next hour to WCEG Network. We are the worldwide community empowerment group where we speak life into the community. You can log on to WCEG talkradio.com. You can watch us on smart TV, on Roku, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Y'all hold on. I'm gonna I always like to make sure I share my everything on here. Okay, here it is. So I'm gonna share right quick. Okay. Subscribe free to our YouTube channel, WCEG Network. Like us on Facebook and Instagram. Connect with us on LinkedIn, TikTok, and Threads. Yeah, well, y'all, we on Threads. Um, Download our free WCEG mobile app, and you can say, Alexa, play WCEG Talk Radio. So you listen to us on our platform, and I must give this disclaimer, especially because this is the showdown. The topics and opinions are those of the show host, myself, and my guests, and not of WCEG Network. And we thank you for your continued support, and make sure you tell a friend to log in and tune in. I want to start off with a brief moment of silence for those who are no longer with us physically. It's so many things that are going on now. So many people out there. If it's not emotionally, it's physically. So much things that are going on, and so I always like to take a moment and just kind of inhale and exhale because there's a lot going on, y'all. Okay, that's our moment. But keep the faith because God is in control. And it has been 3 months, like I said, since I visited my ancestral homeland. And so now we're going to talk about this education. Are you ready for School Talk Showdown? Well, today's show will be lively, and my guest is known to bring her national knowledge along with the energy when it comes to education, especially for children of color, our people. Yes. For the past 14 days, America has been turned what upside down and inside out. And I want to bring on my guest because we're going to have this conversation. So welcome, Dr. Danielle LeSure. She's the founder of EdConnect Now, a Georgia nonprofit. And I just want to tell you, welcome, Danielle. But Dr. I
Hey.
got to be formal. I can't be informal. I got to be formal now.
Mm.
So I appreciate you taking time out your very, very busy schedule to to join us for this school talk showdown. We were going back and forth with what topic what was the topic name is going to be. And
Mhm.
so, like I said, for these past 14 days, y'all, I know it's almost seemed like it's been 2 or 3 months, but with the new administration, and everybody's been turned upside down, inside out on topics of immigration, the new head appointees, tariffs, healthcare, the high prices of food and other consumer goods, DEI, that special word, education, and more. I just say, hold on tight, y'all, for this big roller coaster ride. I am an education choice advocate, and when I heard about the potential of eliminating or downsizing the U.S. Department of Education, I became very intrigued. So I reached out to Dr. LeSure to bring her perspective on all things education, not just with the U.S. Department of Education. So we're going to start off and let y'all know up front, she doesn't water it down. And that's why we get along so well. So tell us briefly, how did EdConnect now come into existence?
Wow. First of all, thank you for having me on the show. This is a great opportunity to connect with you any way that I can be helpful to add to our conversation around education and bring another perspective. Always willing to be here. So, EdConnect is a nonprofit organization that helps parents learn about their school choice options in Metro Atlanta. How it started was I was doing policy work at a nonprofit, and we were fighting for a amendment to pass so that we can have more state charters. And when you are fighting and you're doing a campaign, you go where no one else wants to go. And so I was going to low income neighborhoods and neighborhoods with people who looked like me in Atlanta. And when we won, that's when everybody said, "Oh, you might as well just go back to North Atlanta. Your community doesn't need you anymore." Like, because we
Uh-oh.
won. Your job as a policy person is done. And I realize it's not done. I needed to make sure more parents understood what school choice options were at that time, knowing about what a charter is, the difference between a local and a state charter, but also public school transfers. And so I was at the school choice rally. I'll never forget. And someone said to me, your work as a policymaker is done. We won, and there's no need to go into those communities anymore.
Mm.
And in front of me were all of your kindergartners from a charter school, Ivy Prep charter school. And the wobble came on. I
Mm-mm.
had a decision to make as Dr. Danielle LeSure, to do the wobble with the kindergartners or be on this stage looking out and recognizing that my time is done. And I said, let me do the wobble with the kindergartners. And in my wobble with the kindergartners of Ivy Prep, made a commitment to myself and my heart to make sure that more families understand what their school choice options are so that they can make an informed decision, whether that be a public school, a charter school, a private school. And so wanting to help where I can. But yeah, it was the wobble with the kindergartners of Ivy Prep helped me to realize what my next step should be. And so that's what I committed to doing school choice awareness outside of my work hours. Yep.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Now, Ivy Prep, for those who may not know the name and don't recognize, especially if they're not in the charter school space, could you just give a brief about Ivy Prep? What was so unique about Ivy Prep? And I know a lot of times I do tell the audience when it comes to charter schools, they have to do something that's unique and different, and they have
Mm-hmm.
to offer something that the local traditional public schools does not offer. So
Mm-hmm.
what was it that was unique about Ivy Prep Academy that still is unique about them?
Yeah, so at that time we didn't have too many black founded charter schools.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a black school, or I should say, excuse me, a charter school that was founded by an African American, Dr. Nina Gilbert. And when you see the girls, there's this, because it's an all girls school, there's this this level of excellence that Ivy Prep had, where coming in, they knew, even as kindergartners, that they were scholars. And
Mm-hmm.
so I love the commitment to academic excellence. I love how they're introduced to STEM. I love how there's this spirit that, when you walk through the halls and when you see the young scholars, you understand that they know that academics are a priority, but they have fun doing it. And they also have really excellent teaching staff as well that really lean in. So for me, not trying to make this an Ivy Prep commercial, right? But I just really fell in love with a lot of our Black led and Black found charter schools at that particular time. So she's one of my heroes, in addition to Dr. Natalie Brown Van, Dr. Gavin Sams. So there were some young leaders at that time in our charter space who were fighting for the right to educate students who look like them at a level of excellence. And so she's one of many heroes, local heroes, that I was able to use as an example for why we needed charter school legislation.
Yeah. And when I think back, I remember Dr. Gilbert. I actually remember meeting her for the first time I just got elected, and there was the Black, let's say the Black Caucus was hosting a conference, and they had her as a guest. Her daughter was a guest as a speaker on the panel. And I remember that vividly because that's when I really saw that they just didn't have a clue about charter schools. When I say they, I mean my colleagues at that time with, let's say, Black Caucus. And, so shout out to our Black founders of charter schools across this state, across this nation. It's not easy. A special shout out, I'm going to give it to Christina Guillen with Seven Pillars Career Academy. I worked closely with her when she first started that particular school and went through a whole lot of ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, they're not in existence anymore. But the impact that they had for those children, the staff, the parents, even the community, is something that cannot be replicated. As far as that. And that's what other reason why I fight so hard, because those our Black leaders who decide to open up charter schools do not get the same level of appreciation, funding, and support that they should get than their counterparts with the other colors. So I just wanted to kind of throw that in there. Every time I get a chance, I'm going to throw it in.
Can I add to that?
Yes, please.
Christina does an excellent job of making sure that even after her school closed, that her families that she served had placement, and that they knew how to build from of the level of education that was set by the school. And so what I really love about her is that she was able to work with her families one by one, including those with IEPs, to help support them. And some of those parents, a nice majority, well, a nice amount of them decided not to go into the public school system, and she taught them how to homeschool their students. And
Yeah.
so when I think about why we need Black leaders in this space, it's because there's a different type of heart and level of commitment sometimes that just, it goes beyond passion. It's really a calling. And so shout out to Christine. I'm gonna add to that because
Okay,
she's
I
still doing
appreciate
what
that.
she do.
Yes, yes. So, what are some of your experiences in education policies? I know you mentioned a little bit about working with that one particular organization and the win, and it was like, okay, that's it. But no, that was just the tip of the iceberg. So, kind of briefly tell us so that, as we get into this conversation, the
Yeah.
audience would know that, you're not a lightweight. Well, I don't bring nobody on the show anyway who's a lightweight, but you definitely are not a lightweight when it comes down to that education space and making sure that our communities get the support that they need, all the support that they need. And you have to have an advocate that is going to speak up and also very knowledgeable when it comes down to what those policies look like. So tell us a little bit about those experiences.
Oh my goodness, I can go all the way back to 1998.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
let me go back to 1998. 1998, I was a paraprofessional pre-K classroom in Georgia. And that's when I realized that teachers have a lot going on. As a paraprofessional, I recognize I can't even use the bathroom without begging and pleading for somebody to please come save me, please. And so, that led me to doing research across the state of Georgia on pre-K. So, and this was right before 9/11. I can tell you where I was at 9/11. I was at Georgia State. talking about the results that I found after testing preschoolers across the state and testing them so that legislators would have research to argue for supporting your universal pre-K in Georgia. And so after that, I said, you know what, I really want to one day get my PhD in education policy. At that particular time, I was at Georgia State's Andrew Young School of Policy, where someone named Dr. Ben Scafferty told me, you can go straight to your PhD program for education policy. You don't have to get a master's. And so I didn't believe him. He walked me around his entire school and showed me every single professor that went straight to their PhD and told me
Wow.
that was a cheaper option. So went from Emory University, right, where I was doing everything I could while throwing, hammer for the track team. Every second I had, I would, outside of class, you can tell I spent more time working than thinking about classes. I own that. Um, um, that's when I said, you know what, let me go for my PhD. So I went straight from my bachelor's to my PhD. That's
What?
that's why people are like, where's your master's? I don't have a master's. So this was before online education took off. And so I was in my PhD program and Michigan State accepted me. They said, you know what? Since you've been focusing on education policy and research, and we've never seen anyone like you before, we're going to let you in the PhD program as the first African American and the youngest one. However, at the same time, we're going to fund you for 4 years. And if you need more
Wow.
time than that, we want you to do it. And so I had a really great professor, Dr. Plank, who said, you're young enough in this program because I think I turned, oh man, I think I turned 21. I forgot, but I turned a major age in the PhD program. But he said, you need to understand what goes on at the local, the state, and the federal level.
Right.
You're young enough to take your time through this PhD program and understand all three, because if you do, you're going to have a unique view. And so when I first got to Michigan State, I worked with Granholm's governor, Granholm in Michigan with her administrative team. So Dr. Sue Carnell was my mentor. I worked with her for about 2 or 3 years, and she was the education advisor to Sue Carnell. And so I would do research for her and give her recommendations on, how we should move as a state. And so at that time, it was around teacher certification. It was around testing, whether or not we wanted the state of Michigan to use the ACT. So I was a part of that effort, and they do use the ACT for their high schoolers because we thought that that would increase the number of students who are going to college.
Okay.
And so, I did that. And then, I went to DC to work for the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Shout out to the U.S. Conference of Mayors, Kathy Wiggins, and Fritz Edelstein. And so there is where I learned how your nonprofits have grants to do research, grants to learn how your local officials partner with superintendents. And so a lot of research on the partnership between a mayor and a superintendent. And I discovered my dissertation topic there, where I argued that a mayor does not have to take over a school district to have an impact. What they can do is use their bully pulpit to
Right.
help bring the right people together and build programs that are sustainable and that will last beyond them. And so I was excited about that. I still believe in that. And so that's where I learned about nonprofits. And we had a grant from the Gates Foundation. I said, one day I'm going to work for the Gates Foundation. And so I applied for every single job at the Gates Foundation after getting my PhD. I didn't care what it said. If it said education and policy, I applied for it, even president. It didn't make any sense. They finally called me, and so I got a unique job opportunity where I wrote education briefs for leadership. So Bill, Melinda, and Bill Sr. So whenever they would do an education visit, I would write the briefs.
Wow.
And so the nerd in me really loved it because I got a chance to learn from all your different program officers. And I got to be in conversations where I'm hearing them negotiate around, who's going to get what grant and how and why. And so just a great opportunity to learn about philanthropy and how Black philanthropists have to fight for your small nonprofits. Never thought that that would later on lead to me working for some education advocacy groups, fighting for educational equity, and then starting my own nonprofit. Had no idea. And so that's a quick tour of my life. The only thing I didn't mention that might be important in this space is that I did work at the Tennessee Department of Education as the assistant commissioner under for student and family supports under Penny Schwinn, who is now deputy education secretary,
All
and she's going
right.
to be awesome and amazing. And in addition to that, I did work on the Hill for a year with a Congressional Black Caucus Foundation fellowship grant. If anyone is thinking about working on the Hill, please, please, please check out CBCF's fellowship opportunities and even their internship opportunities. It will teach you a lot about the system, and it will teach you a lot about yourself, because that's where I learned I did not want to work on the Hill. I'm good. Federal level is not for me. They can keep that. Um,
That's good that you were able to
mhm.
learn that early on. I think
Yes.
some other people, may need to go through that to learn that they don't need to be up there either. But they need to do something on the state level as well. Some people just, they just need to go do something else. Like my sister would say, you're not a bad person, you're a good person, but you're just not the appropriate person in this particular position. You're not the right
Right.
person for this position, but
Right.
but
Right.
just not for this one.
You need the federal level, but in the federal level, you're so far removed from communities
Mm-hmm.
where by the time they get to the Capitol and they spend all their money to come see you, you give them 15 minutes, a smile, take their folder. And at that particular time, we were like, don't even think about what they're giving you, because we're not going to do it anyway. And
Right,
I'm like, this is discouraging, because I love people.
right.
And a huge value of mine is making sure that people influence change. And so when I got to the federal level and I noticed that those people were tired, they were not creative. You did have some bright spots, but I'm like, man, I wish it wasn't just bright spots. I want it to be more than that. So when I'm seeing this shakeup and people are going to work more on the
Yeah.
Hill, and you see people being more civically engaged, there's a good side to some bad sides, but I love how we are seeing an increase in civic engagement.
Well, you definitely have said a whole mouthful when you said that civic engagement.
Mhm.
Because I think after this past election, you've had more people that have been paying attention more than they ever have. And even I've been surprised at some of the conversations that I even heard people talking about.
Oh yeah.
I was like, you were paying attention? They was like, yeah. I was like, what? So, like you said, I always try to be the type of person that is optimistic when I'm in
Hmm.
situations. So I don't look at gloom and doom and we have this new administration, everything, we might well all pack up and leave. Okay, guess what? You pack up and leave, they're gonna bring other opportunities for other folks that you're gonna be left on the table. So don't
That's
pack up
right.
and leave. You figure out how you fit in with what's going on, and you stay with that. And that being said, I did want to congratulate you on making history. So, like this is Black History Month, and we want to highlight what our Black leaders are doing in all spaces. So I appreciate you even saying that. And I didn't even know about skipping from a bachelor's to a PhD. That
Mhm.
might would encourage me more to keep on going, but that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, so in Georgia, and then we're gonna jump into this U.S. Department of Education and it's in the Georgia DOE and the local school boards and all these other things that that's we're gonna talk about education. But how is your involvement, or how long you been involved in education advocacy here in Georgia?
Oh, I've been involved in this landscape since 2012. So, long enough to see people graduate from college and get a job doing education policy. So, I've been here for a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
So jumping into this whole thing about the shakeup, because this supposed to be the school talk showdown. They like, Valencia, you ain't got to the showdown yet.
Mm,
But
let's
what
go.
is the probability of the U.S. Department of Education being eliminated or downsized during this administration, and what could that even look like?
This is my personal opinion. I think it's a strong possibility. When you look at who's in leadership, you have the shake-up queen herself, right? Her husband is all about WWE, WWF. You are gonna get a SmackDown, right?
A
So,
SmackDown.
um, so I think she's gonna come, Miss McMahon, or I should call her Secretary McMahon, I think, right? Um, is that her name? I'm pretty sure that's her name. She's gonna come and she's gonna shake things up. A lot of times in education or anytime you're doing a reorg, you're gonna get that person who's not afraid to make hard calls. And they're looking at making hard calls so that they can save money and make sure that they trim the fat. So we're going to get a lean, mean machine. And then knowing that you have Penny Schwinn on the side of her, Penny Schwinn does not play. That's one of my former bosses. Oh, no, 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 no. Penny Schwinn is smart, super creative, knows how to make the most out of the least. And you got two strong leaders there. If I trust anyone to consider how to appropriately and efficiently and effectively move the Department of Education, the U.S. Department of Education, in a way where we're trimming fat so that more money and resources can go to your state education agencies and that goes down to your districts. It's those two.
Mm.
And so there's a huge chance of that given who they are. And I think that when you look at the Department of Education, remember that it's not that old. It's not that old. It came about in 1980. Look at the history of the Department of Education.
Short.
The
It's short
history of
enough.
the Department of Education comes from Carter. When Carter ran, a lot of people would criticize the Department of Education coming into fruition because they believe that that's tied to, I hate to say this, but it's tied to winning the support from your teachers unions, right? So your NEA and your PTA. And so you also had other leaders who wanted to get rid of or minimize the Department of Education, I think including Reagan. So this is not new. This is not new where it's Trump. Actually, it's been around for a minute because people felt like the Department of Education was so strongly tied to your Dems wanting to get support from the teachers unions and lock it down. And so when I think about the Department of Education, I love all the different grant opportunities, but I also noticed that some of the grant opportunities, so for instance, if you want to do something with, let's pick a hard one, IDEA, right?
Okay.
If I wanted to do a grant, or even if I wanted to find another location for IDEA, I might be able to put that under the Department of Health. So they're going to be looking for things
Now,
like
what is
that.
IDEA? I know in government entities they have all these acronyms and letters, and I know when I first got elected, they would say different stuff. I'd be sitting there looking crazy, and I would
Sorry
say,
about
okay,
that. So that's
you know,
that the individualized so basically your I well, now I'm using acronyms again, right? The Individual with Disabilities Education Act. So when you think about your students that have special needs and they have their plan, right? Their individualized education plans. If I am a parent and I have a problem, I've
mhm,
communicated that to the district, no resolve. I communicated that to the state, no resolve.
right.
I should be able to go to the Department of Education. And sometimes it's actually their Office of Civil Rights, right? That will handle that depending on who the student is. And so they'll help to resolve the issue. But what they can do is move that line of work instead of from the Office of Civil Rights, they can move that to the Department of Justice, or they can move that to the Department of Health. So be looking out for where some of the things that you care about might
Mhm,
move, because there's a possibility for that if they want to tighten up on the Department of Education and put it back where it came from, right?
mhm,
So where will it go? So when you think about the Department of Education never stood on its own until after Jimmy Carter. Before that, it was always the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare.
mhm,
Then when they split it up, it was the Department of Education and then the Department of Health and Human Services. And so the question is it going to move under the Department of Health and Human Services? Is it going to be tighter and certain things will move out so that they can have a tighter budget? And so we've got to be paying attention to it. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. I think the reason why I say I'm looking forward to seeing what they do is because then I'll know how to help parents, schools that I
right.
serve help them to know how they need to move in that space. I think you're going to have an administration that's going to be huge on school choice, and they're going to be looking for ways to get more funding so that parents can have more school choice options, whether it be through tax credit scholarships. Some say education savings accounts. I think it's tax credit scholarships, but they're going to make some of your scholarships stackable, meaning if I'm in the state of Georgia,
Okay.
and I have the Georgia Promise Scholarship, which is brand new for us because I go to a failing school, and I can use the $6,500 towards a private school. That private school might be $15,000. So I still have more money I gotta pay, right? But I'm a parent, I can't afford that, but my child needs this, especially if it's a private school that helps a child with special needs, right?
Right.
Sometimes the Georgia Special Needs Scholarship Program won't even cover it all. However, if they create a tax credit scholarship at the federal level, and this is where your federal government is really important, that's stackable to match that, to cover that difference, that's a game changer,
Yeah.
right? So what I anticipate them doing is finding ways to support school choice, but not in a way where it's going to cost the U.S. government more. They might try to find more tax credit scholarship programs so that as local taxpayers, we can decide if we want our funds to go towards a scholarship,
Right.
and repurposing some of the spending. If you have ever worked at a state organization or at a federal organization, you understand that there is fat to be trimmed. You
Yes.
probably ate off of that fat. And
Mm-hmm.
so you're going to have people who are going to trim the budget and get rid of the fat because they believe in the dollars going to where the work is done directly. And so you're going to see some strong leadership where they're trying to get money to our schools and our districts. You're going to see more autonomy there. As long as it's not about reading books, but during Black History Month, you should be good.
All right. Danielle, I see the sunlight, so you might want to adjust your screen a little bit so that we don't it's not
Yeah,
blaring your
I
face.
might be able to just close the blinds. Sorry, y'all, and come right back. Let me do that.
Okay. But while she's doing that, adjusting those that blind, it's very, very interesting to know that the US Department of Education actually was created, like she said, in 1980. So that's not even a long time. And I even know that and she had mentioned earlier about the work she was doing on the Hill with with the city, with DC. And so some people might not know that there are some parts in some places in the United States, particularly in Washington, D.C., that's a little bit set up different than like we are here in Georgia when it comes to the Department of Education. So here in Georgia, like this, let's back it down to the city level. So in Atlanta, the mayor's office and the city council do not have any say so in Atlanta Public Schools. That is run by a separate entity, the school board. But in DC and some other areas, the mayor has a lot of control over the local school district. And so that's when Dr. LeSure had made that comment about, but she made a comment about the control part of I think it was a paper that you wrote, was saying that the mayor did not have to have, hands on to what's going on locally in the education, that there are other means that they can be impactful with the school district. So I did want to kind of clean that up or help people to understand, because some people might not know that some areas are a little bit different than how we're set up here in the state of Georgia. So now that you're back, but you really didn't go anywhere, but
Yes,
you're
I'm
back.
back. I'm back.
Yes. So you talked about several things about how cutting the fat off these budgets. And when I was an elected official, even after that, ran for office a couple of times on the education platform, and you always heard a group, I'm not even going to say who the group is, but you always heard the group talking about taking money from the public schools, and now, in all the promise scholarship took money away and all this. But do you see where even with this tax scholarship, that there may be more room for corporations to even get larger tax breaks than what they already have if they agree to put money into this type of program that may be set up.
Yeah, I definitely see that. And I see that across the nation. I think that's a great thing. I love seeing corporations, especially some of your manufacturers like Toyota, give to scholarships. So it's not pulling away from your public school budget. What I will say, since this is the showdown,
Mm-hmm.
that it's important to make sure we look at how we are spending at the district level, right? What are we spending it on? And so for parent advocates or anyone in the education advocacy space or community organizing space, those budget meetings and how it's being spent, make sure that you're there for those meetings and that you understand. Because you know, we want to make sure that it's not just about getting more money, it's about more impact. And so if schools keep getting more money, but they're not showing for it,
Right.
and we don't have more impact, then I don't care how much money you got. You're not showing us how it's making a difference. And so, I think we need to be careful of saying it's about more money, more money, more money. It's not. It's about more impact. And when I think about Black History Month and I think about people who taught themselves how to read as someone with a grandfather who didn't know how to read, that was something where he still made it not knowing how to read. He was only allowed to graduate from the third grade during those days. And so I'm not too far from the last plantation we were on. And so, if we made the most with the least during those
Yeah.
times, you cannot tell me we cannot do that now. And so, the resilience from our communities, it needs to stand up and it needs to be amplified.
I definitely agree with that. When you talk we still going back to cutting that fat.
Mhm.
I always have said, even with our school districts, there's a lot of cutting that they can do, and not meaning cutting like eliminating jobs. I think it's cutting on how money is spent. Let me give you an example. And we can dive into the pros and cons for the states and local school districts. Um, as a result of the restructuring, if this happens with department, well, we know the restructure is going to happen. We just don't know how. But when you
Mhm.
think about a new superintendent that comes on board, then that means that whatever the past superintendent did, more than likely, all that's going to change. New curriculums are going to be introduced, all this other stuff. And to me, that's more money that's being spent, especially if some of the curriculums were working. Now you're gonna have to go through professional development with the teachers. That's money. You
Mhm.
buying these curriculums. That's money. And the
Yeah.
time that it's gonna take for the teachers to learn it, the kids to grasp it, a whole nother school year would have gone by, and you still have not improved on your scores. And one thing I
Mhm.
do know is that with the school improvement department, with the Georgia Department of Education, that might not be what it's named, but I know what I'm talking about. I can see it in my head. One of the things that they did was that they actually went to some of those school districts that were on the low performing list, the 60, we had a grade of 60 and below. And what
Mhm.
they did is they actually went in and looked at those budgets and saw
Yeah.
how they restructure their budget and reappropriate some of that money.
Mm.
And they saw a lot of improvement, but it was a lot of pushback, because people been doing this how they want to do it. And you coming in and telling them, no, you don't need to do this like this. There's gonna be some pushback. So I can see a whole lot of more pushback, coming from, as this rolls out. So what would be the pros and cons for the state or the local school district with all this restructuring with the U.S. Department of Education?
Yeah, I believe with the restructuring, given who you have in leadership, they are leaders that believe in leaders having the right to choose. And so when you think about the history of the Department of Education and what we went through with No Child Left Behind and Common Core, right? They were trying to tell us to purchase certain software, certain curriculums.
And
I
services.
Yep. And I think that you're going to have someone who or leadership that's going to go in there and say it really needs to be the district's choice. Because if they're able to get a cheaper curriculum and still knock out, reading scores or test scores, right? However, they need to knock it out. Give it to them to knock out. Don't tell them how. And so I think if you are looking for more freedom and flexibility, I believe you're going to get that out of the two who are in leadership and anyone who's under their leadership. And, as somebody who worked for the great state of Tennessee under Penny Schwinn, that's one thing that I really admired about that particular cabinet. And I think you're going to get a bit more of that. So for principals, teachers, and leaders who are used to being told what to do and told what to choose, and who are not entrepreneurial minded, they're going to have difficulty, and they're going to have a lot of pushback, and it's not going to feel comfortable. I think in education, it's going to require a new leader. So at the district level, and even at, that is the local level, but even at the school level, you're going to start to feel more freedom. But with freedom sometimes comes the abuse of freedoms. And so, what the Department of Education has to be careful about is when you make an org change like that, right? Sometimes there can be new rules that will come out, and you are flying the plane at the same time you're building. And so people have to be careful about compliance to any grant opportunity that they get from this Department of Education, where you never know if the person who was over your grant, now if that shifts to another department.
Right.
And so I think that's where you've got to really make the assumption, let me make sure I'm overly compliant so I don't get an audit. Because districts do get audits, right? You do have someone who's looking and saying, hey, the way that you spent this COVID-19 money, this grant that was 2 years ago.
Don't talk about that COVID money.
I'm sorry. I mean, hey.
They got too much They had too much flexibility.
They're still, they had a lot of flexibility. And at the same time, they were trying to figure out how to manage this grant appropriately. And some things that they were required to do at the end, they weren't required to do in the beginning. They missed that meeting in the middle, and now they're being hit with a fine. So in terms of compliance, what I'll say to anybody who is a school leader, make sure whoever does your grants is on top of it. You've got to have somebody who is meticulous. You got to have somebody who is paranoid, because people who are paranoid will have two ways of tracking something and will have backup for you. If you don't have someone who is paranoid in a grant making or a grant, anything relating to a grant, I feel sorry for you. Yes, hire the paranoid.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I could go on and on. So much more I want to talk about, but I only have an hour for this showdown. It actually, definitely was a showdown, because we talked about, what those changes could be in the U.S. Department of Education, what that would look like on the state level, what they would look like on the local level. And, even like you said, you just got to make sure as school leaders and even as parents, even as community people, that we're watching and saying, hey, now that you have this autonomy, make sure that you're doing the right thing with it. And there may need to be some training on how to, and sometimes you can't even train people on how to think like entrepreneurs, but you probably can. It's going to take a little while. But that's the kind of what I see. And even with the Opportunity School District, when that came up with Governor Deal, that was one of the things, was that giving them, that autonomy. But even with all those flexibility, those three models we had, they didn't know what to do with it. He was like, okay, you can now don't have to worry about your class size or whatever. Now you don't have to have highly qualified teachers. You can really be, think outside the box. All of that just end up not doing well for those school districts that did not know how to handle that flexibility. So we're going to move on from there, but you can have a special private movie screening coming up in Fayetteville on Saturday, February 15th. And so tell us a little bit about it, and why did you choose that particular movie, and tell us what that particular movie is.
Wow. So EdConnect will be doing a special screening of Captain America. We chose Captain America because right now, when you think about what's going on, it's Black History Month. We had an inauguration happen on MLK Day. We have a lot going on where we are looking for a hero. And what I'm saying to the community and what my team is saying is be your own hero to your own community. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter what your ability is. And I'm saying that for all my people who want to own that they have a disability. Just know that there's strength in your disability. So that's why I'm calling it abilities, whatever your set of abilities are. So be your own hero. What are you concerned about? What's on your radar? You should be able to say 3 or 4 things that's on your radar for your community, even if your community is a national level. I'm concerned about the McNair Scholars Program, right? I'm concerned about what happens to those Black scholars who graduate college and they want to go on to get PhDs. Will the McNair Scholarship, you know, if it's considered DEI, be canceled? I'm concerned about that. You would have never known. I'm also concerned about stacking, making sure that if we do, opportunity scholarships, tax credit scholarships, that the difference can be covered that Black families cannot afford. I'm concerned about grant compliance. What are we doing to teach people the importance of grant compliance? Because that's what really caused some issues in our districts. And I'm not even going to go there. I'm going to leave it alone, right? And I'm concerned about these old school charter contracts that keep saying that you got to outperform the entire district when they won't let you compare apples to apples. You want me to compare apples to an entire fruit basket. I don't have all that fruit in my basket, right? Like you're asking me to compare all my kids that I got in 6th grade or 8th grade who are already behind to an entire district just to be a school. We got some talking that we have to do. So I want people to come out to that movie and let me know what you're concerned about so that we can figure out, is there a common thread where we can stand with you so you're not standing alone? And I'm someone who has done this. I've done this with One Atlanta, a coalition that we formed that led to the passing of the Family Engagement Office at Atlanta Public Schools. And being able to sit and reflect how that was done and that story was never told, saying, you know what, I've learned some lessons, right? And we need to make sure that together we fight for something, but together that we keep our eye on that quote unquote win. Because when you win, you didn't win. You gotta remember that that's something that was passed, and you got to keep your eye on it. The same way we got to keep our eye on what's going on with our state charters, especially the ones that are being led by Black boards and Black founders, and what they're being told, how they have to get educated by certain approved vendors. We need that vendor list to grow. We need to figure out how to get more of our Black experts in the finances to learn about charter budgets. So that movie is about us, and it's about us being heroes in our communities. What does that look like? We're going to follow that up in March with a sit-down dinner where we're talking and having conversation in more detail. And we're looking to build a coalition from there. We are really adamant about driving change. So if you are an advocate, even if you are frustrated, please come to Captain America, because the first 30 minutes of that, we're going to have a conversation as a community, really as a family, to see how we want to work together to fight for change, because you are not alone, not at all. So that's what that movie is about. Thank you for mentioning it. We had 150 tickets. We only have 21 tickets left for the 1 o'clock show. I love Clayton County. Clayton County and South Fulton have shown up and they said, we are there. We got a story to tell and we want to see this movie with you. So we're excited.
All right. Give them that website they could go to just in case they might be able to be among the 21.
Hey, right now, if you want to be among the 21, you gotta you gotta go to the EdConnect 101 Facebook page and you gotta message us and we will give you the secret link. We we put the link out to our entire listserv, in addition to advocates that we know who are active, and they took advantage of it and jumped on it. So right now, if you're serious about change, DM myself or the Honorable Valencia Stovall, Chief, for that secret link. But to be honest, I don't even know if there's 21 left. It was 21 for, I think, the 1 o'clock showing. And so we're really excited about that. And I've been reading some survey results. And so I'm hoping to do some data crunching because you have to complete the survey to get the ticket, and people are making it known what they want to see changed. And we need to know, because as policymakers and researchers, we need to fight for what you want and not what we think in our head. Stop allowing us to create something for you that you did not approve.
Right.
Be civically engaged.
Definitely. So you all can search on Facebook for EdConnect now. And like she said, you may and may not, but then again, they always are having different events across the metro Atlanta area. So you could join their email list and just stay connected. If you want to, you can't make it, but you want to make a donation to EdConnect now.
EdConnectNow.org. Yep.
EdConnectNow.org. Definitely do that, because all dollars make a difference, especially when you're out here having to do the advocacy work, because it is not easy. So thank you so much, Dr. LeSure. You can hang on here. I'm going to finish out. I got to do my say what, and then I got to run through my announcements. I only have about 9 minutes to do it, but I think I can do it. But thank you
You
so
got it.
much
Thank you.
for your wealth of knowledge and information, and really break it down so that some people are not as paranoid. But like you said, you might do want a paranoid person working with those numbers. But not paranoid as to, I don't know what's gonna happen or what my child gonna be. You just got to put your, you just got to grind down in it and stay involved, and hook up with organizations like EdConnect now, so you'll know how to advocate, how the best way to advocate, because there's a way to advocate, then that's the best way to advocate. And so you want an organization that's very knowledgeable about the best way to advocate, so you can see changes in your community. And she doesn't need a whole big group. If it's just one of you all, just you, and you want to know what to do, reach out to her. So we're going into the say what. So this time it's a part of the show segment when we talk about those things that are usually unimaginable, and those things that may make you want to shout, say what to the what. All right, so according to the Human Times, there was an article in Fortune magazine on January the 28th by Sasha Rogerberg. Google adheres to Gulf of America executive order. All right, so y'all have heard about this Gulf of what? And also changing about a name of a mountain. So they said Google will update its maps and products in accordance to the president's executive order. That was among those, but I told y'all we were about 12 days in, that changed the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Yeah, you heard it. So we've been knowing ever since we were younger, it was the Gulf of Mexico, which is located in the southern part of the United States. And now it's going to be changed to the Gulf of America, which is meant to honor American greatness. Now in Mexico, it would still remain the Gulf of Mexico. So they're going to still refer to it as the Gulf of Mexico. But in America, and with the Google Maps, and then I think they're working with Microsoft with their maps, with the Bing and all of that, to make those changes. Now, that's one change. Another change by Google will be the reversal of the name of the Alaskan mountain Denali to Mount McKinley. So for those who didn't know, Denali was originally named Mount McKinley in 1896, but former President Obama in 2015 changed the name from Mount McKinley to Denali as a tribute to Alaska's native population, even though the native Alaskans had always long called it Denali. So now the current president has now said, okay, change it back to Mount McKinley, because we want to honor that president, President McKinley. So that's my say what to the what. So now Google got to go through all of these changes, put in the software and change it. But some people are going to still refer to it as the Gulf of Mexico, because that's how we grew up to know that was the Gulf of Mexico. So that's my say what to the what. So my announcement, congrats to the 2025 recipients who were honored at the Martin Luther King Jr. 41st Annual Holiday Tribute at the Georgia State Capitol, and it was held on Friday, January the 17th. And of course, this was my third year serving as vice chair of the ML King Jr. Advisory Council, which is the entity that is by law the one that actually does the whole celebration ceremony at the state capitol. So this is not the same one that the King Center does. This is one that we do at the state capitol. And I was appointed by late Speaker David Ralston, and which is a testament of my leadership and devoted commitment to the community. So I'm no longer elected. Usually you get some of those appointments when you're an elected official, but I have been gone since 2020, it's been 5 years. But I did receive that appointment 3 years ago. The awardees are Princess Adekunbi Oyekan for the Andrew Young Humanitarian Award. She's the founder of the Third Mile Inc. nonprofit dedicated to community empowerment. Our second awardee was Dr. LaWanda Falami from Clayton County. Yay, Dr. Falami, for Reverend Joseph Lowry Civil Rights Award. She's a community advocate for all, especially the youth and senior adults. She uses her voice to influence change. And of course, I was excited to stand with her for this well-deserving award that she received. The third awardee was Herbert Denard for the John Robert Lewis Lifetime Achievement Award, a trailblazer and advocate with a few highlights of creating the Afro Shop in Macon and the Georgia Informer publication. He was created that publication. Our last awardee was Crystal Hart, and she received the Rita Jackson Samuels Founders Award, which is awarded to women business owners. And she's the founder of Sparrow Communication, where her organization helped to build strong community connections through storytelling and strategies. And she's a member of several committees. Our keynote speaker that we had, y'all, was outstanding, Mrs. Omotayo Ali. She's the executive director of Georgia Public Defender Council. And she was a 2024 awardee by the council. So the previous year, she was actually one of the awardees. And this year, she came back to be our special guest speaker. Her message was powerful, delivered on the power of transformation through love and education. And you know, those who are going through the criminal system, they have to have some kind of power transformation, but she said it has to be done through love and education. Other notable speakers and highlights were, of course, our Governor Kemp, Speaker Burns, and actually my aunt, Evangelist Mary Ward Cater, ushered us in through a powerful prayer. And we also had performance by the Atlanta Boys Choir, who always bless our soul with songs. So that's that. Congratulations to those 5 awardees for that award. And now, nominations for the 2025 Georgia Single Parent Annual Recognition has closed. So those of you all who did not get your nominations in, you're going to have to wait till next year. However, you can still support the event. You know, this is one of those events that is dear to my heart. We started in 2019 through collaboration with the National Leadership Group and Real Parents. Shout out to Beverly Brewster, to Lenora Daniel, and Tom Macbeth. Those 3 ladies are powerful ladies that came to me asking me about recognizing Georgia Single Parent Day in the state of Georgia. It's a national day, but we want it specific for Georgia. And so House Resolution 279 was signed into law by Governor Deal in May of 2018. And since then, since 2019, we have been recognized as Georgia single parents, male and female, at the state capitol. And I want to thank some great partners, Representative Kim Schofield, Representative Regina Lewis Ward, Senator Rashawn Kemp, Georgia Youth Career Center, and Atlanta Public Schools has joined us in partnership at the state capitol this year. Can you say celebrations? Yeah, we're going to honor about 36 single parents who are doing an outstanding job raising their children in this environment of selfishness. So they're raising kids to learn how to not be unselfish. The 2-day event will be Friday, March the 21st, which is Single Parent Day in Georgia. At the Georgia State Capitol. We'll be there from 9 a.m. to 1. This is free, y'all. Y'all can come to that. They're gonna be recognized by elected officials. We're gonna take some pictures and we're gonna learn about the legislative process. And we're gonna do some fellowshipping. The next day is on Saturday, March the 22nd, is the annual Legacy Builders Recognition and Awards Banquet at 1 o'clock at the beautiful Atlanta Airport Marriott Hotel. Now, let me tell you something. You have to get your tickets in advance. Do not show up on the day. We will not be taking we would not be selling any tickets on the day of the event. We never have done that. So Purchase your tickets at $47 for adults and I think $27 for the kids. Go to https://nationallg.org, or you can Google nationallg.org to get your tickets. We're going to put it in the comment box as well. Now, you can purchase your ticket and you can buy ads. So if you want to advertise for your business, we're taking ads for $50 for a half a page or $100 for the full page. And these are full color ads. And so you can, and all your company can sponsor for the 2 days. But go to the website. I'm gonna put it into the chat box. To the comment box. And I want to thank our early sponsors, Bethlehem Baptist Church Seniors and Mabel Law. Join our email list to keep up or follow us on Facebook, the National Leadership Group, Inc. Each year, it gets better and better. This year, we added on a special Historian Award for single parents who is making or have made historical impact, not just in Georgia, but for humanity. So we add a new award this year. We have an outstanding person that really has made history in not just Georgia, but also in nationally. So we're going to recognize that person with a special historian award. Time has called us, y'all. It's 5:01. All good things must come to an end. We will be back here on Monday, February the 17th at 4 p.m. I'm at 4 p.m., y'all, on the 17th. The goal of Issues and Answers with yours truly, Chief Mrs. Honorable Stovall, is to educate you on those things you might not think about unless you're in a situation to be concerned. And guess what? We all in a situation to be concerned. We're all in a situation to be concerned about what's going to happen for the next 4 years plus, not just the 4 years, but 8 years, 12 years. So we have to start being diligent and paying attention and not just going by everything that's swept by our ears, but going investigating and being involved in what's going on locally, in your cities and your counties, but on the state level and on the federal level. Get involved. Remember, EdConnect now. Go to their Facebook page to join, to follow them. And also National Leadership Group is the one that's responsible for our Georgia Single Parents Day. And if you're a single parent, a former single parent, or you're a current single parent, but especially a past, I'm a past single parent. So if you want to get recognized, buy yourself a ticket or have those grown children to buy you a ticket for $47 and come. We're going to acknowledge all our single parents that are in the audience. So even though you might not be one of our awardees or honorees, but you can still come and celebrate with us on March the 21st and March the 22nd. All right, y'all, I got to get out of here. We'll talk to y'all later. Have a good evening. And we'll see you all on Monday, February the 17th at 4 p.m.